What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. Now, for this video, we are going to be jumping into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin. This will be issue number 1, and this is a story by Kevin Eastman, Peter Lade, and Tom Waltz. Now, for some of you that have been with this channel for quite some time, you know that we did cover these, but we ran into some copyright issues, so we're changing things up and we're going to be republishing these comics, all in anticipation for issue number 4 that is releasing later this week. And for those that have not read this comic or they have not been following this line, you guys are in for one heck of a treat, because this story is absolutely phenomenal, being one of the darker, grittier stories that have ever been told in the TMNT lines. This is easily going to go down as one of Kevin Eastman's best comics ever written. And with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we're diving into issue number 1, we are picking up with the Last Ronin, currently having his identity hidden from us, so we're not knowing exactly who this is. It could be any of the 4 brothers. But opening up, we're introduced to a whole different kind of New York City. A city that is now under the control of Shredder's grandson, with this city being fortified off from everything else, with it being under the complete control of the Foot Clan. We see our now older turtle making his way through all of this sludge on the outside, through all of the pollution, through all of the waste, something that regular humans could never possibly even live through. But being a mutant turtle, it definitely has its perks. And we see the Last Ronin making his entrance into the city, knocking out security cameras, throwing a grappling hook over the wall. We are seeing the Last Ronin make his assault upon this city. He has come to end this decades-long feud, to end this today or die trying. And as he makes his entrance into the city, he sees that the city is still booming, it's still popping, there's people everywhere. And this is going to make it very difficult for him, especially being a freaking 6-foot turtle walking around. It's going to be hard to hide, but he's not so worried about that. More than anything, he's worrying from getting from point A to point B, getting to that tower where Shredder's grandson is waiting, completely unaware of what is about to happen, completely unaware that the Last Ronin is coming to take his number. And so the Last Ronin, thinking quickly that he needs to be able to move around the city, he ends up stealing a motorcycle from an individual that is referred to as Jones. But stealing this motorcycle, it was only so he could do what's about to happen. And driving that motorcycle into what appears to be some kind of gas depot, the motorcycle lands and we see a giant explosion. This explosion, it propels the Last Ronin, shooting him up to where he can get into what looks like a sewer system. And so we're learning all the different layers that this city is truly having. And as he makes his way through here, he goes up to another storm drain, popping it up just for a moment, but it appears that there are some kind of alarms on him. This alarm, it alerts security. This security seems to be some kind of robotic armed individual. And using a little bit of smoke and mirrors, he's able to get away long enough so he can set up an ambush. And as these fully integrated robotic security guards with freaking katanas are looking for him, he's perched atop a building waiting for his chance to jump on them. And when they get close enough, he jumps down and he rips them to pieces. And with them defeated on the ground, he looks down at one and recognizes that there is some kind of human inside these, though it's probably more synthetic and more robotic than human at this point. Whatever the Foot Clan has been doing, they have been merging technology with human beings, probably in an attempt to make them more compliant, but also much more durable. But this is not the last of them. With that alarm going off, it alerted every single security guard in the area. And now this area is completely flooded with all of these cybernetic robots. And so our Last Ronin, going by the lessons his father taught him, he's striking hard, he's fading away, and he is not losing focus on his goal. And as he's taking these things out, he's realizing that some of them actually have guns. Some of them could definitely do some damage from far away, but none of this is stopping him. He is cutting, he is breaking, he is smashing everything that stands in his way, jumping on top of a police cruiser, getting inside of it and using it to get closer, because everything is one goal: tunnel vision to that building, to this palace, this fortress that is sitting in the center of this city. And that's what takes us to Oroku Hirotu, the grandson of Shredder. And what we see him doing is essentially using this place as a command center, not having to do any of the dirty work himself. He is commanding and controlling all of the troops and letting them know that lethal force has been authorized, and when they find this individual, whoever this person is, that they need to be executed on site, to send a message to everybody else, to remind this city who has control of it. And picking up with our Last Ronin, he has made his way to the base of this building, to the base of this fortress. He realizes that he has made it here. The only issue is there are guards on top of guards on top of freaking guards. And so in his typical style, he grabs yet another motorcycle and uses this to his advantage, trying to get as close to the door as possible, using the motorcycle, ghost riding it, and causing an explosion. And the time for stealth is now gone. The strike hard and fade away aspect is no longer applying, and he is going full-fledged, ripping these people apart, ripping these robots literally to pieces. And as he is cutting through these, more and more are coming, but each new wave, it comes with some kind of different robotics, some kind of upgrades to the system. This one that he's going against is so freaking fast, it's hard to even keep contact on it. But he has been training years for this day. He has been training for quite some time, and with one goal in mind: to get to the top of this tower. Absolutely nothing is standing in his way. And while our Last Ronin is disassembling his entire forces, Oroku is watching on security cameras, and this is when he recognizes and realizes that this is a mutant turtle. And this is when he calls in for all available Foot Clan members to make their way to the tower. And as the Last Ronin continues through this building, he runs into yet another layer of security, and that is some elite ninjas. Though they are robotic, they definitely can move. They definitely have been trained, programmed to know how to fight. But at the end of the day, they truly lack any willpower. And that's exactly what is driving the Last Ronin right now. All of that sheer willpower. The will to end this feud right now, tonight. These robots are simply programmed. Now Oroku, he has no intention of actually facing off with him. With him being the master, with him on this narcissistic trip, with this dictator-like mentality, he believes that he shouldn't ever have to even raise a hand, that he commands other individuals to do his bidding for him. And with all of his forces so far not being able to take down the Last Ronin, this is when he sends in some mousers. Mousers with freaking laser beams. Using a localized EMP, he's able to take out the small guys, but the big behemoth comes charging at him. And as the Last Ronin rips out his katana, he goes to impale this thing. But the momentum, the speed that they are going at, it takes the Last Ronin out with him through a window. And we see the two go falling many stories. All this effort, all this time he put into trying to climb this building, it was all for naught. Because as it stands, he goes falling from the sky, landing on the pavement. We see the Last Ronin raise his head as blood is spewing out of his mouth. Surprised that he is even alive, the Foot Clan, the security guards, are making their way to this area, trying to disperse the crowd that is surrounding them. The Last Ronin, he's able to make his escape into the sewer system, and that individual Jones, she sends the Foot Clan and the security in the opposite direction. And of course, Oroku is absolutely livid. He is not happy about this situation. And that's because the mutant turtles, they were supposed to be dead. Believing to have killed them years ago, he is in complete disbelief that this mutant turtle is still alive. But he vows that he is going to take it down, that he is going to destroy this monster, and it's going to be for vengeance, because his mother currently lying in a comatose state. He blames the turtles for her current condition. But more than anything, what we are truly learning is he is absolutely freaking psychotic. He is an absolute nutcase. The way he talks to his mother, the way he talks about the city, the way he talks about himself. He is an absolute narcissistic sociopath. I would say even with borderline personality disorder. But obviously I'm not a psychiatrist. I am by no means able to diagnose somebody, let alone a character in a comic book. But if I were a betting man, my money would 100% go on to that. With our Last Ronin currently bleeding out, having some brutal wounds, he makes his way through the sewer system. Getting back to the lair, he lays out his and his brother's weapons. Some of them broken, some of them shattered to pieces. In his failure, he has decided that it is time. It is time for him to end his life. Through the ancient tradition of seppuku, the form of taking one's life, considered honorable among the samurai class. With him missing his brothers, with him being completely isolated and alone, with him not having anybody, dealing with this PTSD, dealing with this depression, dealing with all of this trauma. To add on to that, he failed in his mission. He was unable to take down the Foot Clan. And so this feels like the only option, his only way out, to do the honorable thing and to take his life. And as he puts that broken sword next to his stomach, getting ready to impale himself, at the last moments he stops. He stops himself because he's not ready. He's not ready to go. He is not ready to stop this fight. And as he passes out from all of this blood loss, this is where we see that individual that goes by Jones come into the room. And that's what picks us up in some kind of dream state. And our Last Ronin, he's waking up completely surrounded by his brothers, as if it's just a regular day back in the past. Waking up to eating breakfast, everybody joking around, having a good time, back when things were great, back when he had his brothers with him. But as he wakes up from this, he looks around the room to find an individual he recognizes, because that individual is none other than April herself. And as April comes into the room, she refers to him as Michelangelo. Alright guys, so as we jump into part 2, we are picking up with April waking up from a nightmare. A nightmare that is remembering everything that happened. All of the trauma that they have been through. Because these aren't just nightmares, this is the reality that she lived through. And that's what takes us to the past. With Raph breaking into this room, throwing everything to the side and telling them that they need to prepare for what's about to happen. And this is where we see Donnie and Mikey come into the room, both of them carrying Splinter, because they were ambushed. The Foot Clan had attacked them, believing that there had been a truce, that the truce had held for quite some time, but something has happened. For some reason, the Foot Clan has decided that they are no longer going to abide by this, and they surprise attack them. They ambush them, and Splinter is in extremely bad shape. And with him laid out on the table, there is blood everywhere. April and Casey, they don't really know what to do at this point. They're doing their best to bandage him, but he truly does need a doctor. He needs somebody that can really fix these wounds. And if they don't, he will sit here and bleed out on this table. Now, of course, both Casey and Raph, they don't want to get at it. Raph wants to get out there and just beat the crap out of some Foot Clan members. His anger, his ability to reach that level of anger so quickly, of course he's going to have that when Splinter is laying out bleeding on the table right now. But with Leo walking into the room, he tells everybody that they need to stand down, that they need time to be able to regroup. They can't just go in there all hot and heavy, ready to fight the Foot Clan. They don't know what they're going to run into. They don't know what to expect. They could very well be running into yet another trap. And so they need to take a step back. They need to reanalyze the situation. But as they begin to prep Splinter to leave this place, to take him to Dr. Lee so he can get some proper treatment, with everybody lacking any kind of morale, with everybody's heads hanging, nobody saw it when Raph made his way outside. Because at the end of the day, you can't stop him when he has his mind set on something, especially when his anger has reached this level. But that's what's going to take us to present day. With April sitting up in her bed, we see that this war has taken its toll on her, with her missing an arm and a leg, being a double amputee. As she sits in her bed, she calls out to Casey, asking for a little bit of help getting to her arm and leg. Now, picking up with Mikey, he is sitting at the table, getting ready to make some tea, but we see him sitting down with his brothers. Now, not sure if this is part of his training where he was able to learn the ability to talk to them in the afterlife, or this is simply him going through a psychotic break, him seeing his brothers, being able to talk to them, have arguments with them. This could simply be his way of coping with their deaths. And as he's sitting here talking to them, he begins to argue with his brothers because they're judging him, or at least that's how he feels like, because they're telling him that it was a bad idea to go in like he did. Not only that, but then to try to take your life after you failed. Feeling like he is being judged by everyone and everything, he takes the tea kettle and he throws it across the room, only to look up and there be nobody around. He finds himself completely alone, because that's the reality. Nobody else but him can see his brothers. But still, after he makes yet another pot of tea, he comes back more calmly and he tells these ghosts that he is going to finish what was started, what Master Splinter had raised them to do, to get vengeance for everyone that he loves. Now that is what's going to pick us up with Raph, and he is currently making his way through the city. Now remember, this is in the past, directly after Master Splinter was laid up on the table bleeding out, completely infuriated, completely driven by his rage. He makes his way through the city. He makes his way to where the Foot Clan are currently hiding out, currently being led by Karai. She is currently yelling at all the Foot Clan members, yelling at them because they failed in their mission to take down the mutants. In breaking this peace treaty, she knew that there would be war. She knew the consequences if the mutants did not die. Only she did not expect it to happen so quickly. She did not expect the retaliation to come so quickly. And as everybody is staring, looking at her, one by one, we see Raph taking them out. He is not letting up one bit. Cutting, slicing, making his way through. Obviously at this point, they've recognized that he is here, and everyone is descending upon him. From arrows to spears to swords, he is getting stabbed, poked, prodded by everything, but nothing is stopping him. Breaking through any kind of line of defense they might have, using his sai and slicing, stabbing, getting rid of every single Foot Clan member that stands in his way. Telling Karai that she needs to stop hiding behind all of her soldiers and come face him. And that's exactly what she does. And as the fight breaks out between these two, they are going toe to toe with one another, with both of them getting some good hits in. This fight makes its way into the ocean. Going off the side of the dock, they both fall into the water. And as they sink to the bottom, still continuing to fight one another, we see her take a blade and shove it into the chest of Ralph. At the same time, he takes one of his sides and jams it directly into her back. And with blood pouring out of both of them, we see them both float lifeless as they slowly descend to the bottom. This is the day that the first brother was taken. This is the day that Raph dies. Now that's what's going to take us to present day. And we have Mikey and April sitting down having a cup of tea. And they're really just catching up on everything that they've missed, because they haven't seen each other in quite some time. He definitely hasn't seen her with her amputations. And she simply lets us know that this is more or less a souvenir from the last time they had seen each other. So whatever happened the last time that they were together, something happened so catastrophic that they were separated, they never saw each other again, and April lost 2 limbs in the process. But right now the word on the street is that he has rattled some cages up on the surface. And she also lets him know that he's lucky. You know, she's not any kind of Donatello type, but at the same time she can understand that over the years, it appears his mutation has made him stronger. It's made him bigger, stronger, faster. And so that fall, that's probably why he survived it. And not only that, he is healing at a crazy rate. With his head still being a little bit fuzzy, most of his wounds have healed up at this point. But in the midst of their conversation, April hollers for Casey, completely throwing Mikey off, not knowing that Casey is still alive. He finds out very quickly that it's not the Casey he was thinking of. This is Casey Marie Jones, the daughter of both April and Casey, named after Casey because he is no longer with us. Now, of course, little Casey Marie, not necessarily little, she's definitely in her older teens, if not, her early 20s. She is the one that saved Mikey, that brought him here. Not only that, she's been infatuated with her and the Turtles her entire life. April has been telling her stories since she was knee-high, of all the Turtles, of Splinter, of everybody. Believing him to be the funny one, she's definitely seeing that there's a personality change. He's no longer that funny-go-lucky, go-happy Michelangelo anymore. And so obviously, there is a lot to catch up on. And that's what takes us to Oroku, currently up in his tower, and he is training with a ton of his foot soldiers. Though I wouldn't necessarily call it training, he's really just beating the crap out of all of his guys, and they are no match for him. And really, we're getting a glimpse of his personality. A philanthropist, a man with too much money, too much ego, narcissistic, sociopathic, and his last captain, for his failure, he literally beheaded him and let the birds pick at his skull. And so we're seeing how absolutely brutal this man is. How he rules with an iron fist, like any dictator. But we know that he has one goal in mind, and it is to find that mutant turtle, believing all of them to be dead, believing that he took all of them out years ago. Seeing this one resurface, he is more than ready to take it out, more than ready to do what is necessary to finish this family feud, to end this blood feud once and for all. He has to kill the Last Ronin. Now, this is when we pick up with Mikey and Casey. We learn a little bit of where they're at. This is referred to as rock bottom, because this city has broken down into layers ever since the Foot Clan took over. You have a bottom, a middle, a top. And then you have the underground. Now, the underground is a reference to a resistance group. Individuals that are fighting against this tyrannical leadership. Fighting against all of the Foot Clan. Doing their best to take back their freedom. And for years, Casey has been training. And Kendo and many other forms, many other arts, she has been practicing for years and years and years. Trying to gather and get the skills that the Turtles once had. But as these two sit and talk, Casey's very interested on who he is and where he has been. And so he breaks it down for us and lets us know that after everything that happened, he found his way across the ocean, winding up in some mountains. He was definitely out of place, never setting foot on snow-covered mountains before. This is all new to him, especially being a turtle from the city. And as he made this journey, he realized he wasn't going to be able to make it. And so he found a spot where he believed this could be his end, where he could die and just be left here. But after a day, a week, a month, after so much time goes by, his mutation does not let him die. He sits there more or less in a hibernation, and as the snow begins to melt, spring became. We see the new season arise, and because of this, he gets up. He decides that it's not his end. He begins to train in all of his father's arts. He begins to meditate. He spent years believing that this is where he's supposed to be, a reward for all of the trauma and turmoil that he has been through everything he has suffered and sacrificed, believing this to be the end game reward. But it's not that, because it only took a matter of time for people to be able to find him. And as they came, they tortured him, they tied him up, they beat him, they attempted to kill him. But being the turtle he is, he beat the crap out of all of them, realizing and taking this as a sign that civilization, humanity would never leave him alone, that there are still things that he has to do back home, realizing that his destiny, his true destiny, it laid on the battlefield. That is where his end would be. And so with him being the last of his family, with him being the last of his clan, it is up to him, the Last Ronin, to fulfill his family's honor, to restore their name to their rightful place. to bring revenge down on the Foot Clan. And so making his way back to civilization, that's where issue 1 picks up. It picks up with him getting back and immediately going in for the attack, without doing any kind of real recon or anything like that. One mission in mind, one goal in mind, and had no intention of making it out alive. But now that he has, now it is time to reevaluate everything. But it means that he still has work to do. And of course, Casey Marie, she wants to help. She wants to help him in taking down the Foot Clan, working with the underground and doing all of this whole time. She feels like she's ready. Now, of course, Mikey doesn't want to involve her in any of this, especially with how dangerous it is, how many people they have lost already. But Casey Marie doesn't give him an option. Much like her father, much like her mother, she is not taking no for an answer. Now, as they are having this discussion, April, she is getting something out of a safe. Something that she has been keeping safe for quite some time. And as she opens up that safe, we see the head of Fugitoid. Alright gang, so as we dive into part 3, we are picking up in the past, with Oroku now being essentially sworn in as the Foot Clan leader. The grandson of Shredder is finally old enough to be able to take the throne, with his mother currently in a coma after everything that happened with Raph. With his first command, his first order of business is to get in contact with the Turtles because he wants to set up a parlay. He wants to end all of this bloodshed. The time has come to speak of peace. But picking up in present day, we know that simply wasn't the case. That parlay, it was a lie. The peace that he sought, it was a lie. And we see him broadcasting to the entire populace of New York, letting them know that for 2 decades, he has kept them safe. He has kept them protected from anything that do them harm. But he lets them know that there is a monster among them, a creature, an assassin, cowardly attacking them in a terroristic attack, one that failed them, but saying that this treason, it's unacceptable, it's unfathomable, and it's unforgivable. And any crime done against him is punishable by death. And so he warns, no stone will be unturned. They will capture him at all costs, and he will personally execute the final justice. And so tonight, until further notice, this entire city is now in a state of martial law. And this is when the city erupts into chaos, with people fleeing in every direction, with these robotic security guards rounding everybody up and forcing them to get into their homes. With some kind of protest trying to happen, these people have no chance. They are outgunned, they are outnumbered, and they are overpowered. And so while all hell is breaking loose, Casey Marie Jones's crew let her know, or say that they need to let her know everything that is going on. They need to get to her as soon as possible. And that's what picks us up with Mikey, currently sitting in his bed talking to his brothers. Now remember, up to this point, we're not sure if this is something that was done through meditation, but I believe this is something that's more due with trauma. He's talking to the ghosts of the past. He's talking to his brothers that are no longer with him. His way of coping and dealing with everything that has happened, with losing the 3 individuals that were the most important in his life. And they're arguing right now because of Casey Marie. Casey Marie, while she may be fighting this resistance and working with the underground for quite some time, he doesn't want to involve her in any of this stuff that's going on. He wants to keep her completely separate because of how dangerous it is, because of how many people that they have lost throughout all of this. But at the end of the day, even if she's a kid, even if she's 16 years old, they were no older than she was. They have been training for this their entire lives. But this is a battle that is passed down from generation to generation, and it is time for it to finally end. And if that means Casey Marie is helping him by his side, he is not going to be one to try to stop her. Now, Casey comes into the room, letting him know that she has every intention of going up to the surface. Him telling her this probably not a good idea, but she's not one to ask for permission. Letting him know before she takes off that April is looking for him. And so with them making their way in their opposite directions, her going to the surface, he makes his way to April's office, to her little laboratory. And inside, he walks in and he is completely shook because this is where he sees Professor Honeycutt, aka Fugitoid, or at least what is remaining of him after the last encounter, after the last battle took place. And April lets him know that things are about to get crazy around here. Things are about to go real sideways real fast. And with Mikey being completely out of it, completely confused on what's going on, he thinks it's time that they do a little bit of a catch-up to remember what happened. And that's what takes us to the past. And right now, they are preparing Donnie and Splinter to go over to Japan to do this parlay and see if there is any possibility of making peace. Now, of course, everybody is skeptical because a truce between these two clans, it never lasts. And the last time that there was a truce, they definitely broke it. That's where we had Splinter laid up on the table bleeding out after they were ambushed. That's how Raphael ended up dying. But Splinter, he believes even if this could be a trap, he has to try. With a new generation, a new leader taking over, maybe, just maybe, Oroku doesn't want any more bloodshed. Maybe he is tired of decades of fighting over and over again. And so they have to try. They have to be able to try to make it there and see what happens. But while Splinter and Donnie, they make their exit as they fly out of here, this is where we see Baxter Stockman. And an assault is about to go down, with him at the helm, with him appearing to be commanding some individuals, letting them know that now is the time to make their attack. And all of the outer defenses, they get hit simultaneously. And with a bunch of guys getting taken out, they're able to hit the alarm. With the alarm going off, this notifies everybody. The element of surprise has been taken from Stockman, and now he is having to send everybody in. And so everything is going into lockdown. Currently, we have Mikey, we have April, Casey, and we have Honeycutt. They all made their way to the hangar as soon as the alarms went off, but they're ready to head their way with the tech crew. But so much chaos is going on, Leo tells everyone that they need to converge on the main compound to be able to make their way back there and hold their defenses as long as possible. Because on top of Stockman, we have Foot Clan making their way from every breach, every entrance that they could possibly get into. They are getting overrun in a matter of moments. And as everything makes their attack, as everything is going into motion, we see Mikey and Casey holding the line of defense. Holding the line as some giant robot Terminator-looking mofos start breaking down the doors. And this is when the fight starts to begin. Now, Honeycutt at this point has realized that Stockman has figured out his location. That Stockman has finally come for him. And we see Casey doing his best to try to take these things out. Breaking a hockey stick on one of them, breaking a cricket stick on another, winds up finding himself a sledgehammer and starts really taking these things down. Now, while all this is happening, it appears that one of Stockman's robots is able to grab a hold of Fugitoid. Grabbing a hold of him, Mikey is able to stop this guy, taking down this robot, saving Honeycutt in just this moment. Stockman is getting absolutely infuriated. And so with that, he sends out everything. Every mouser he has, every single robot that he has on standby, he sends everything. And as Leo and Casey look up, they can't see anything but mousers, but Foot Clan, but all of these robots, realizing that this is something they're probably not going to get out of. But they're going to stand their ground. They are going to fight till the very end. Leo and Casey telling April, telling Mikey, and telling Fugitoid that they need to get out of there. They need to get to the safe room, and they need to do it immediately. That they will hold off these forces for as long as they possibly can. And as April is trying to get Professor Honeycutt back into the room, he breaks out. He breaks out and he screams to Stockman, telling him that he knows it is him who he is after, and that he will never, ever allow him to take him captive. That he will self-destruct himself before that ever happens. Now Stockman, believing that to be the case, says if he can't have him, then simply nobody can. And with one push of a button, every single mouser in this place detonates. We see an explosion erupt, with the windows being blown out, concrete flying in every single direction, the flames still burning. the only thing we find left behind is Casey's mask and Leo's sword. And this is that day. This is the day that we lost Leo. This is the day that we lost Casey. This is the day that Michelangelo was separated from everybody, believing them all to be dead. This is the day that Mikey became the Last Ronin. Now, picking up on the surface, Casey Marie Jones has made her way up there, and she sees that the city is in absolute chaos right now. Regular, everyday civilians trying to make their escape, trying to hide anywhere they can, because the Foot Clan is coming down with an iron fist. When they said they were leaving no stone unturned, this is something that they truly meant. And we are seeing what it truly means to not have freedom, to have all of your rights taken away, to go into an absolute police state. Now, with her recognizing how bad the situation is, she needs to get to her mother. But before she can do that, she runs into some robots. She has to use her skills, and she is definitely skilled when it comes to martial arts. Taking down one of the security guards, she is in a frantic panic to get back home, to tell April everything that is transpiring. And that's where we pick back up with April and Mikey. And April is telling us her side of what she remembers. And what she's telling us is that after that explosion, they looked for any kind of survivors, but nobody was found. She, being one of the few individuals to make it out, she spent a lot of time in the hospital, waking up a week later in the hospital, finding out that she lost her husband, she lost all of her friends, she lost her home, she lost her arm, she lost her leg, and not only that, she was freaking pregnant. And so she goes through rehab. She gets a fancy new arm, she gets a fancy new leg, and with a brand new baby, she makes her way into the world. Seeing how the Foot Clan had begun its takeover, how it had begun its police state, she decided it was time to go underground. With the store being destroyed, they go down to the lair, to hide out here and to raise her daughter, in the hopes that somebody might show up, that one of the brothers still is alive, that Casey might be out there. And so we're really connecting the dots, because when Mikey got knocked out during that explosion, it sent him halfway across the neighborhood. And when he came to, he was in such a fog, he doesn't remember where he was. He wasn't sure what to do. By looking at the rubble, he couldn't believe that anybody survived it. He made his way back to home base. He made his way back to the lair, and he tried to contact Splinter and Donnie. He tried to let them know that they had been betrayed, that this parlay was all a ruse. It was all another trap. But he was unable to. He was unable to contact them, and so he made his way to Japan by hopping onto an airplane, going as a stowaway, hiding away from everybody. He made his way to Japan. He was hoping that he would be able to reach them in time, before he lost his master and his brother. And he has so much survivor's guilt. Being the last of his brothers, he blames himself. Why him? Why is he alive when nobody else is? Why did he make it through that? And April knows exactly, how and why he's thinking these things. Going through therapy, going through counselors, this is a prime example of survivor's guilt. But she reminds him that it's not his fault, that it is nobody's fault except for the Foot Clan. But she thinks she's devised a way to be able to take down everything they need to do. She thinks she's found a way to beat Hirotu. And that's when Casey arrives, letting us know that she needs to figure it out, and she needs to figure it out fast, because on the surface, everything is going to hell very quickly. Now, picking up with Oroku, he is perched atop a building, and he is talking to himself, talking about how he's so great, how he's so amazing. This guy is straight up a freaking psychopath. He is a lunatic. He is delusional in the worst kind of ways, believing that he is untouchable, believing himself almost to be a god. We're seeing a godlike complex coming from this guy, believing that he is the epitome of everything this city should be. And as he's sitting here ranting on top of this roof, he kind of slips off. He slips and he goes to fall, and he doesn't even freak out. He believes that no matter what, he will live, that he is immortal, that he is godly. Though the reality is, it's just robots saving his life, believing that no way they will ever let me die. Like, this guy is a complete and utter freaking basket case. This guy is Shredder times a freaking 1,000. And that's what we've seen with each generation. They have gotten worse and worse. They have become worse and worse individuals, to the point where you have literally a psychopathic, narcissistic sociopath with borderline personality disorder. And so this is what they're going against. This is what they have to face. Now, picking back up with Mikey, with April and Casey and her crew. Casey is ready to get out there and bring the fight to them. April as well. They're all ready to do this. Now, the thing about that is, they want to use Fugitoid. But the thing is, when they reactivate him, this is going to let Stockman know exactly where they are. Kind of like a beacon to come kill us. And so their first goal is to take down Stockman. They have to take down Stockman before they do anything else. And then they can go after the Foot Clan. And the plan is to more or less turn Fugitoid on, once they're in the midst of attacking Stockman. That way it throws him off his guard. He will put everything into trying to capture that robot, that he will be completely oblivious to Mikey and everybody else making their counterattack on him. Now, of course, Mikey, he doesn't agree with this. He thinks it's a bad idea. He thinks it's a suicide mission. At this point, he's not 100% sure on what to do, but he believes attacking right now, this instant, a lot of people are going to get hurt or killed in it, including Casey Marie, believing that they are just not prepared, that they don't have the equipment, they don't have the ability to go make a full frontal attack like this. Though he doesn't have much room to say, considering that's exactly what he did when he first arrived in the city. But now, looking back and recognizing that that was a foolish, childish endeavor, more of a suicidal death wish than anything else. But April takes him to the side and shows him something that she has been working on. And this is where we see a freaking turtle tank. Something that is going to help change and alter the course of this battle in the days to come. As we jump into issue number 4, we are picking up outside of Stockman's compound. And right now, the underground is having a full-on assault against Baxter, having to take him out before they can go for Oroku. But as it stands, they are currently pinned the freak down. They are getting overwhelmed, they are getting taken out left and right, with their communications completely choppy, with them getting pinned down in this specific spot. Now, this is something that Mikey didn't want to do. He thought this plan was stupid from the get-go. The whole idea on going just straight forward onto this compound, attacking it directly on. He figured it was the worst idea you could come up with. But he wasn't going to allow them to go in and do this by themselves. And so with the team laying down some suppressive fire, we see Mikey jump out into the fray. And we see Mikey taking on robots left and freaking right, taking down freaking Goliath robots like they are absolutely nothing. And right by his side, we see young Casey Marie Jones. Calling Mikey Sensei, she jumps into action and starts beating some robot butt as well. And that is what's going to take us into the past. Before this entire operation kicked off, we're picking up down in the underground, or what they refer to as rock bottom. And we see Casey Marie, she's training right now with a punching bag. As she trains, Mikey is watching her. His brother's definitely chiming in, letting him know that she just, she's not good. If she had 10 years maybe, then they could train her for what they're about to do. But as it stands, they don't have that much time. And she is a sloppy fighter. Though she can't really be blamed for that, she's had no one to train her. And with Mikey coming into the room, he kind of instigates a fight. He really wants to see what she's made of, to see how good her skills truly are. And so he says some things to be able to get under her skin, to make her throw that first punch. And really it doesn't take much. He simply just calls her a kid, and she's insulted by this. So insulted, she goes to attack Mikey, and we see the fight break out. But this isn't a fight. This is Casey Marie missing with every single punch, missing with every single kick, not hitting hard enough, not punching fast enough. And with her anger growing more and more, with her getting more and more frustrated, it's just making Mikey's job that much easier. Being able to outmaneuver outdo her in every single way. He puts her right on her butt, slamming her face into the concrete. He lets her know that she has a lot to learn, but every single moment is a teachable moment. And Mikey uses this moment to let her know that not every single fight needs to be fought head on. You don't need to dive directly in throwing punches. Sometimes it's better to let the enemy wear themselves out and then make a strategic strike. But he lets her know that they don't really know each other. They've never really had any kind of connection, but they are family. And as it stands, she needs a teacher, and he is more than willing to be that teacher. And of course, she's extremely ecstatic about this, dreaming of meeting these guys anytime, one time, thinking that chance would never happen, but having Mikey stand before her, wanting to be her teacher, she could never ask for anything more than that. And with her running out of the room, this is where we see April. April really just saying thank you. Thank you for everything that you are doing and have been doing. Because Casey Marie, she has dreamed about meeting these guys her whole life. And now that he is taking up the role of teacher, it's something she believes Master Splinter would be extremely proud of. But more than that, April is thankful because Casey Marie really hasn't had that many friends. She has lived in this lifestyle for so long that this kind of guidance would be truly good for her. You know, April just never had the skills or the abilities that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have. Was never able to teach her in the way Master Splinter could. Having her father's courage, her mother's brains, the only thing she is missing is the skills of a ninja. But more than anything, April, she wants to know more about what happened in Japan. What happened to Master Splinter? What happened to Donnie? And so reluctantly, Mikey tells her the story. And he picks up when he landed in Japan, making his way into the mountains, not knowing really where he is going, only having a vague understanding of where the clan might be. And as he traveled for days, possibly even weeks, he found himself growing tired, wanting to stop. That is, until he came upon a little village. A village completely lit up, but he got surrounded by guards, saying that he was here to find Master Splinter, letting them know that he is the son Michelangelo. They point him in the direction of this village. And getting inside the village, he is greeted by the Master. With them going inside and sitting down, Mikey has to ask the question. He has to ask, where is Master Splinter? Where is my father? And where is my brother? And he tells him, without looking him in the eye, that there are people, there are creatures, teachers, warriors, heroes, and legends. And he lets Mikey know that Master Splinter, he was all of them. And that's what's going to take us to the past, when Master Splinter and Donnie made their arrival to the village. Arriving at this village, they're getting ready to meet with the Foot Clan. They're getting ready to meet with Oroku to try to do this peace deal. Oroku asking for a parlay, asking to bring peace to their people, to stop this conflict between the two, to end this family feud. And so while being very cautious, while being very careful about what they do, they still have to go to this meeting. And this meeting is taking place in a graveyard. Now, of course, this definitely may send the wrong message, but they're hoping that this is just a mishap, hoping that this comes from ignorance and not malice. But when they make their arrival, Oroku is nowhere to be found, saying that he is preparing the meal for the feast that is about to happen, and that once they agree upon terms, then they can head up to the feast. Now, of course, Master Splinter, the others, they find this very insulting, especially when you asked us here to have a parlay to talk about peace, and you don't show up, or you show up late. And so Master Splinter, not wanting to discuss any kinds of terms or conditions, he says that they will wait for Oroku to show up. And as they sit here and wait, this is where we see Oroku come in on horseback. But the way he's talking, it has nothing to do with peace. He is being disrespectful, he is being rude, he is calling Master Splinter names, calling them mutant rodents, so on and so forth. We can tell right off the bat that this is extreme hostility. And he calls them fools, calls them idiots for believing in this thread of false hope, saying that back home in New York, your friends, your family, everyone you care about is already dead, that you two are the last of your line, and that is going to end right here, right now. And we see Splinter, he goes straight freaking gangster. He cuts 3 heads off in one freaking swipe. And he tells Oroku, as long as he is breathing, that he will call him Master Splinter. And this is where we see all hell freaking break loose. Master Splinter, Donnie, and the rest of the clan, they go in. We are seeing clan versus clan. We are seeing Donnie take his bow staff and shove it through people's eyeballs. We are seeing Master Splinter slice and dice. Complete and absolute barbaric brutality. Now, Splinter and Donnie, the rest of the clan, they are outnumbered right now. They did not bring the forces to fight this kind of fight, but they have the skill, they have the ability, and we see them swooping through them, stinging like a bee, floating like a butterfly. And with our 2 heroes slowly making their way through all of these goonies, Oroku is getting fed up and tired. He is tired of waiting for them to die, saying that this is not happening fast enough, and so he wants to bring the archers forward to take out all of his men, but it will also kill Splinter and Donnie, and that is the overall goal. He is willing to sacrifice anybody and everything to meet this end goal, with Oroku telling Splinter that it is over, that everyone he loves, everyone he cares about, they are dead. And Splinter lets him know, if that is simply the case, then I have nothing to live for, and that you will come down here and you will face me face to face. We will end this right now, in the honorable fashion. You come meet me and you face me down, and I will kill you just like I killed your grandfather. And of course, this completely irritates him, throws him over the deep end. Oroku, he charges into battle. And we see Oroku, we see Master Splinter, they go charging in at one another. And as Splinter makes his way across the battlefield, this is where we see Oroku stop. Stopping in his tracks, he tells the archers to open fire. This was just a ploy to lure Splinter onto the battlefield. And with the archers releasing their arrows, they go flying through the sky. With Splinter not being in range to be able to get at Oroku, he takes his sword and he throws it. Throwing it across the way, it lands in the chest of Oroku. And with this blade impaling in his chest, as we look back at the battlefield, we see Donnie completely covered with swords, arrows, every single weapon that was used. You can see it impaling him. And with reinforcements coming in, the Foot Clan, they have to make a tactical retreat. Grabbing Oroku, they head off the battlefield. But this battle, it was not a victory. Nobody won in this battle, because at the end of the day, Master Splinter, he lays on this battlefield. He lays here full of arrows, completely lifeless. And alongside him, we have his son. And so with Michelangelo getting the answers that he wanted, he was told that he could stay here in the village. But looking around, seeing all of these warriors, it reminded him too much of everything that he has lost. And so with this knowledge, he packs up everything he has and he found his way into the mountains. Now we know the rest of the story from issue number 2. And being the Last Ronin, he made his way into the city to make his attack, to end this family feud. Little did he know he would run into April. He would run into the underground. He would run into an entire city he just doesn't recognize anymore. Now, of course, April, she's saddened. She's saddened by all of this, and she wishes Casey Marie would have been able to meet some of them at some point. But she's happy that Mikey and her are forming this kind of bond, this kind of connection that can't really be explained. But Michelangelo, he can explain it because he knows exactly what's going on. And this is when he asks April, when were you going to tell me about Casey Marie's abilities? Mikey asking if she was injected with the ooze. That's not the case. But what she is learning is through lifetime exposure to Splinter and the Turtles. It kind of rubbed off on both her, April, and Casey. So when they had a child together, it appears that some of that mutation, it rubbed off on her, giving her extra strength and extra speed, as well as a very unique healing ability that heals much faster than regular humans. And so we're seeing that spending a lifetime with these mutant turtles, it has gave them just a little bit of an extra edge. More so Casey Marie than April herself. And agreeing to keep this between the two of them, this is where we pick up in HQ. We're picking up and they are preparing for this battle. And the entire goal of this is to get Honeycutt inside. If they can get Honeycutt's head inside, if Fugitoid's head can get inside of this building, if they can connect it, they can essentially shut down all of Baxter Stockman's intelligence, all of his cameras, all of his technology will literally be shut down instantaneously. It would give them control of the city. The only issue is this place is a freaking fortress. And dropping us back into the fray, we are seeing them struggle just to break through. Because these outer defenses, they are absolutely ridiculously strong. And with Casey Marie and her crew laying down some suppressive fire, we see Mikey make his way onto the battlefield, taking out all of these guns. This gives the airstrike team an opportunity to glide in and be able to take it from the inside. And so strategically, they are hitting from multiple positions all over this base to include sending some men on the inside. And what they need to do is they need to breach the main gate. Now at this point, Baxter Stockman, he thought these were all thugs. He thought it was people just trying to get some extra scrap and so on and so forth. He doesn't realize that this is a full-on attack. He even assumes that it could be Oroku testing his security, testing his abilities to see if maybe he could take over. And so he sends out all of his Mousers, sending the Mousers out to deal with this and get it done and over with. On the other side of town, Oroku is getting information about what's happening, about what is transpiring. Believing that the Baxter is just testing some new weapon, he goes ahead and he sends a crew of Foot Clan over there just to investigate, just to ensure that he doesn't blow himself up before he has access to all of his tech. And so with Mikey and the team trying to blow the wall, we see the explosion happen, but it doesn't take down the wall fully. April is going to have to take that freaking tank that she built, and she's going to have to drive it directly through the wall. The only issue is, they are on the ground right now, and they are surrounded by Mousers. Mikey trying to do his localized EMP, but it only works for so many of these things. And while things look like they are about to go sideways for them, this is where we see all of the Mousers surrounding them, and we see April make her arrival, blasting her way through this wall, popping her head out of the hatch, letting them know how much she hates freaking Mousers. And we see an electrical blast that shuts all of them down instantaneously. And we see them continue on with their mission, breaking down the wall, getting into Baxter Stockman's little main headquarters. This is where she needed to get to. The power source that's going to be able to get Professor Honeycutt back online. And with them charging in, Baxter completely caught off guard. She is able to get it over to the power source and plug it in. With plugging it in, she runs out of time. Baxter Stockman is right on top of her, and he throws her for a loop. Baxter Stockman holding Honeycutt in his hands, having the prize that he has sought after for such a long time. But little does he know that Professor Honeycutt is back online. And quoting some Lord of the Rings, he lets Baxter Stockman know that he shall not pass. And we see an electrical charge come out of Professor Honeycutt. A charge so powerful, a charge so strong that we see Baxter turn into literal dust. And nothing left over except for the nanobite swarm. We see them make their way into Baxter Stockman's entire system. Jumping into the system, he takes absolute control. With the effects happening all over the city, we are seeing the Foot Clan police officer robots all start to shut down. Not only that, but Oroku, he is losing complete control of this city. The people are beginning to rise up. They are coming back to take their city. And so this battle has been won. But the war, it is just about to begin. Alright gang, this is issue number 5. Baxter Stockman has been defeated. His robotic army that had been controlling everything, they are offline, living under a tyrannical rule of the Foot Clan. This city, the people, and the rebellion, they have an opportunity to fight back. Our story starts us off with Michelangelo, sitting in his room, staring at his father's diary. The spirit of his brothers are asking him what he is doing. What is the plan and what do we do next? These are all just manifestations of Mikey's mind. After years of solitude, all of the grief that he has been dealing with throughout this entire time, this was his coping mechanism. These are also voices that he doesn't want to hear anymore. The truth of the matter is he has heard these voices for so long, constantly telling him that he is not good enough, constantly letting him know that he needs to honor this family. And with him sitting down in this room, not taking this opportunity to make their attack, the truth is Mikey knows exactly what he needs to do. He is building up the courage to do what needs to be done, to end this war and bring it all to a close. To find Oroku, the grandson of Shredder, and make him answer for everything he has done to this family, telling the voices in his head that they need to stop. He has repeated himself so many times, and now he is really ready to let it all go. The ghosts of the past have been haunting him for such a very long time. With the end drawing near, he lets these ghosts know that they need to leave and never come back. As Mikey gears up, he writes one last thing down in the diary, and then he heads out. Meanwhile, up on street level, everything has broken out into pure chaos. The revolution has begun. As Casey Marie observes everybody's actions, they were really hoping that more people would pick up arms and join the fight. But what civilians are doing is looting. They are stealing, they're taking, they're destroying everything. As this mob mentality continues to spread through the streets, they try to enlist anybody and everybody that is willing to take up arms. If they didn't have enough problems, the power outage that took over the whole city, it is causing flooding all in the sewers, which means the lair is in jeopardy. Casey Marie going to check on both April and Mikey. We are taken to Oroku, the grandson of Shredder. This guy is an absolute sociopath, believing himself to be a god. All of his men are failing around him and he can no longer get in contact with Stockman. This is the weakest that the Foot Clan has been in a very long time, no longer having all of the robotics to defend this tower. Oroku knows exactly what is coming for him. Down in the sewer systems, we have Casey Marie going and looking for her mother. Of course, April is down here and she is working on trying to fix this issue, to prevent the flooding from taking out everything. And this is when Casey asks the question on where is her sensei? Where is Michelangelo? Unbeknown to her, Mikey decided to leave without saying a word, not even saying anything to April. She only recognized he was gone after she went to get some help trying to figure out this whole flooding issue. And Casey Marie, in her anger, we see her punch right through this rock wall. Because you have to remember, April and Casey, when they conceived their child, they had been around the turtles for so long. This mutagen had affected her pregnancy. It made Casey Marie a very strong, a very powerful individual, much like the turtles themselves. And this is the first time that they're having a real conversation about it. This is something that April never wanted to bring up. She wanted to say it years ago, but she didn't want to say it at all. In her anger and rage at her mother, she lets her know that she is going to go find Mikey and help him bring this war to an end. That he is out there right now fighting for all of our families, and we need to be there for him because he is our family. Little does she know that he has already made his way to the tower. He has set explosives and he is working his way all the way to the top. These explosions, they may take away the element of surprise, but the truth of the matter, all of these Foot Clan soldiers, they are nothing more than flesh and bone. And after years of having stockmen really be the police, the enforcers, the Foot Clan soldiers have gotten lazy, they have gotten fat, and they are out of shape, which means when Michelangelo comes through, he leaves nothing but bodies in his wake. As Mikey gets close to the top of this tower, this is where he is met by a giant knight, defending the door, not allowing him in. We see Mikey go in, and he makes quick work of this dude, taking some heavy hits in the process. These are things to just slow him down, to weaken him up for the fight that is yet to come. As he defeats this titan, he makes his way into the next room, only to find some robotics that are not connected to stockmen. These are a last line of defense, using an EMP to knock out all of these robotic crows. We see some old school robotics come into play. Mikey picking up the knight's sword, he takes it and drives it into the heart of this robotic gargoyle. As Michelangelo screams for him to come out, this is where we see Oroku coming out of the shadows. He is fully armored up and he is ready to go. Michelangelo swearing to him that this will be the night that he dies. Oroku punching through the capsule that is holding his mother, saying that he only kept her alive out of spite, to see what he would amount to. The room begins to catch fire, and we see the epic battle begin. As the two juggernauts are throwing punches at one another, Mikey quickly recognizes that his suit is something different. It's almost like liquid metal, believing that it's gotta be some kind of nanocarbonite, trying to use Oroku's own emotions against him, using his anger and rage to make him slip up. In the middle of their fight, there is a giant explosion from the tower. The two of them, they go flying out of the window, and even as they fall, Oroku is trying to do some kind of damage to him. As Mikey attempts to stay calm in this whole situation, they both fall from a great distance and they land on a giant water reserve. As the two of them get back to their feet, Michelangelo is looking for any kind of weakness, believing that this armor has to have a soft spot, recognizing that that fall it had done a little bit of damage. But this suit is self-repairing, so any puncture that is made is quickly sealed up. As Casey Marie is trying to make her way to Mikey, she quickly recognizes that she's not going to be able to do that. That the people, the civilians, this rebellion, they need her more than he does. This flooding is about to break through. April is still down there in the sewers trying to stop this. And so Michelangelo is on his own. There will be no backup, with Mikey doing everything he can to stay on his feet at this point, because that fall did a lot more damage than he believed. He is working at half speed right now, and he is just trying to counter everything that is being thrown at him. This is when he starts to have a little bit of doubt. He knows that he has to find that weak spot. He has to find any opportunity, because if they keep going like this, he is going to be dead in a matter of minutes. Using a small charge, he is able to break through this armor, just temporarily, so he can get a sigh into it. A little gift from Raphael. In the midst of this battle, this is where we see another explosion. The tower that reigned over this whole city, the Foot Clan's headquarters, it goes up in smokes. With a giant explosion, Oroku looks away just for a moment, and this gave Mikey the opportunity he needed, knocking him straight off this building. We bring it down to street level, driving a sword directly through his stomach, courtesy of Leonardo. Oroku's armor is busted, he looks defeated, even telling Michelangelo that he has won. Mikey going over and picking up a sewer grate, letting him know that there is no winning today. There is only the end. As Mikey goes to smash in his head, we see Oroku get up and he slices Mikey right across the stomach. As Oroku pulls out Leonardo's sword from his stomach, we see the armor, it quickly heals over this. Not only is it self-repairing, but it appears that it is also healing his wound, breaking Donnie's staff right over his head. This is where we bring it to home field. We go down into the sewers. Mikey just needs one opportunity to catch his breath, to patch up the wound on his stomach and make his attack. While this fight is transpiring, we have both April and Casey who are underwater. The entire system is about to collapse down on top of them. This water filling up this entire place. It needs to be let free or everyone is going to suffer. As Casey Marie is running out of air, April is able to open up this gate. All of the water is let out, and this water runs directly into Oroku and Michelangelo. It comes through the sewer system and it washes them out onto the outside. At this point, Mikey can barely stand up. His guts are leaking out. His head is just wrecked. He knows that he is not going to survive this. He knew from the very beginning this was a one-way ticket. This may be the place that he dies today, but the Foot Clan, Oroku, the heir of Shredder, he is taking him with him, letting him know that this will be his burial ground, right outside the city that he helped destroy. With a giant electrical surge coming out of the body of Oroku, a ginormous explosion, and then Oroku's body lays limp. And this is where Michelangelo, he falls to the ground. Losing a tremendous amount of blood, we have the arrival of Casey Marie, saying that this is not fair, that he cannot leave her. He is her sensei, and he has so much left to teach. Apologizing but saying that this was his duty, this was his destiny for his family. And while you and your mother, they may be family as well, he hands over Splinter's journal. And he tells her that this will teach her everything that she needs to know. But there is one very important lesson, the very last one, and that is to know peace. As Michelangelo takes his last breath, that is the death of the Last Ronin. And we see Mikey wake up just like he did in the beginning, in the very first issue, with his brothers surrounding him, ready to go conquer the day. They head out into the sunset, and with them is Splinter and Casey. This was no dream. This is his heaven. This is his reward. Living long enough to avenge his family, he now gets to bask in eternity with his brothers, his father, and that all good delicious pizza. And while this may close the book on our four brothers, there is still Casey Marie. Picking us up sometime later, she has been training away, wishing every day that Michelangelo was right here with her. But she's going to keep training. She is going to keep learning. As she heads over to her mother, going to the laboratory, they have been working on something new, having a little bit of the ooze, trying to understand this mutagen. Inside of a clear, observable bubble, we have 4 baby turtles. And Casey Marie cannot wait to teach them the world. And that will be the end of this series. So let me know what you guys think. That ending was absolutely phenomenal. Now it does say to be continued, and that very much excites me because I was hoping we were gonna get some kind of continuation. We can only assume with how huge of a hit this comic has been, we're gonna be getting some in-between stories later on. Because while 5 issues has been absolutely amazing, I feel like there is so much more here to tell. Like I said in the beginning, this has been a huge roller coaster of emotions. From wanting to cry at how much emotion they really put into this. How much you can feel Michelangelo suffering, the grief, the guilt that he has been building up for so many years. That survivor's guilt has really and truly ate at his very soul. One of my favorite parts of this entire series has been Casey Marie, paying great homage to her father. I love the twist of the mutagen really having effect on both April and Casey, especially during April's pregnancy. It's a very logical way to go with things. I also like that they pointed out that these turtles, they get stronger as they got older. If they do not make this into a TV show, if they don't make this into a movie, I have no faith left in humanity. Because this, more than anything else, this deserves it. It is bloody, it is brutal, it is emotional, it is loving, it is caring, it is everything that you need and want in a comic. My only complaint is that it has taken us almost 2 years to get 5 issues out. Multiple delays from issue to issue caused so many problems. But it also gave me an excuse to go back every single time a new issue came out and read the old ones, just to refresh my memory, get a quick recap on everything that has happened. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, let me know your theories. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by hitting the super thanks button. This button will let you donate directly to the channel, and every little bit helps us out. Now, if you can't do that, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out, and until the next breakdown.